It was just, I just kept it really simple. You know, I'm such a fan of, or I'm so committed to just the value of.
Charlie Sheen was once the golden boy of Hollywood, the actor who could command tens of millions of dollars per film or TV season, the man whose name alone could guarantee a box office hit or sky-high ratings. From Platoon to Wall Street to the record-breaking sitcom Two and a Half Men, Charlie's career seemed unstoppable. Fans adored his charm, his quick wit, and his ability to bring both drama and comedy to life with equal intensity. Behind the glittering facade, however, lay a darker reality, a world of excess, addiction, and self-destruction. In just 5 short years, Charlie reportedly spent every single penny of his fortune on a lifestyle fueled by caine, partying, and high-stakes indulgences. Lavish homes, exotic cars, private jets, and the most expensive nightlife imaginable. Nothing was off limits. But as the money disappeared, so did the stability in his life. Relationships crumbled, careers stalled, and health deteriorated. The same charisma that made him beloved on screen became overshadowed by shocking tabloid headlines and public meltdown. Today, Charlie Sheen's life is a cautionary tale of fame gone wrong. From the heights of Hollywood royalty to facing financial ruin, legal battles, and personal struggles, the trajectory of his life has left fans stunned and saddened. How did a man with millions in the bank, countless opportunities, and a career many could only dream of reach such a tragic low? The story isn't just about fame, it's a glimpse into the destructive power of addiction, the fragile nature of wealth, and the human cost behind the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Charlie Sheen's story begins long before the headlines, the scandals, and the jaw-dropping revelations. Born Carlos Irwin Estevez into the legendary Sheen acting family, he grew up surrounded by cameras, scripts, and the lifestyle of Hollywood royalty. His father, Martin Sheen, was one of the most respected actors in the industry, and from a young age, Charlie seemed destined to follow in those footsteps. He had the looks, the charisma, and the natural talent that made directors pay attention. By the time he reached his 20s, Hollywood was already labeling him as a future icon. His breakthrough performance in Oliver Stone's Platoon shot him directly into the spotlight. Critics praised him for his raw, grounded portrayal of a young soldier caught in the chaos of war. Suddenly, Charlie wasn't just Martin Sheen's son, he was a star in his own right. More roles followed, each one building his reputation as one of the most promising young actors of his generation. When he appeared in Wall Street opposite Michael Douglas, audiences saw a new kind of Charlie, sharp, intense, and capable of carrying even the heaviest scenes with ease. Hollywood knew it had struck gold, but as the fame grew, so did the temptations. Charlie was exposed to nightlife, parties, and the fast lane of Hollywood excess at an age where most people are still figuring out who they are. While many actors struggled with sudden stardom, Charlie embraced it fully. He enjoyed the limelight, the attention, and the indulgence that came with being one of the highest-paid young actors in the world. But beneath the confidence was a growing restlessness, a hunger for something bigger, louder, and more extreme. The moment Two and a Half Men hit television, everything changed. The sitcom was a massive success, breaking records and becoming one of the highest-rated shows on TV. Charlie's role as the charming, irresponsible bachelor Charlie Harper seemed almost perfect, as if the character had been written specifically for him. And in many ways, it had. Charlie played it effortlessly, and the audience adored him. With his massive per-episode salary, endorsements, and back-end deals, he was earning more in a week than many stars made in a year. At one point, Charlie Sheen became the highest-paid actor in television history. But success didn't bring stability. Instead, it became fuel for a lifestyle that was growing increasingly dangerous. Insiders later revealed that Charlie was spending staggering amounts of money on drugs, mainly caine, often delivered in quantities that shocked even industry veterans. His luxury homes turned into non-stop party zones. Friends, acquaintances, and strangers came and went as he drifted deeper into addiction and chaos. He bought expensive cars, rented private jets for spontaneous trips, and spent thousands a night on escorts, alcohol, and drugs. The more he earned, the faster he burned through it. People close to him tried to intervene, but Charlie's fame gave him a sense of invincibility. He believed he could manage everything: his career, his addiction, his finances without consequence. For a while, it seemed as though he might be right. He continued to deliver hit episodes, charm audiences, and command staggering paychecks. But behind the scenes, the cracks were growing wider. Producers quietly worried about his erratic behavior. Friends noticed the drastic changes in his appearance. Family members feared for his health. Charlie's early downfall didn't happen all at once. It was a slow decline masked by fame and money. His spending grew more reckless, and the pressure of maintaining his superstar lifestyle pushed him deeper into the very habits that were destroying him. What started as casual indulgence had grown into a full-blown dependency, one that consumed not only his finances, but also his relationships and peace of mind. By the time the warning signs became impossible to ignore, Charlie Sheen had already placed himself on a path that would shake Hollywood to its core. The actor who once symbolized promise and potential was now standing dangerously close to losing everything he had worked decades to build. As the world watched Charlie Sheen dominate television ratings and collect an income that most actors could only dream of, something far more sinister was unfolding behind closed doors. Charlie was living at a pace that even Hollywood couldn't keep up with, and the money that once seemed endless was burning away faster than anyone could imagine. Within just 5 years, the fortune he had built from decades of blockbuster films and a record-breaking sitcom began to crumble under the weight of addiction, impulsive decisions, and an out-of-control lifestyle. People close to him later described those years as a blur, a non-stop rotation of high-end parties, dangerous habits, and spending sprees that didn't just push boundaries, they shattered them. Charlie wasn't buying luxuries. He was buying experiences that came with price tags most people wouldn't believe. Tens of thousands of dollars a night would disappear on drugs, alcohol, escorts, and hotel suites that served as playgrounds for excess. He surrounded himself with people who encouraged his worst impulses because they benefited from them. As long as Charlie kept spending, they kept showing up. One of the most shocking aspects of this period was his dependence on caine. Deliveries were reportedly made to his home multiple times a day, sometimes costing him upwards of $20,000 a week. Charlie wasn't just dabbling, he was consuming at a level that would destroy most people in days, not years. And he didn't hide it. He laughed about it, bragged about it, and treated addiction as if it was a trademark of his personality, rather than a looming threat to his life. By this point, even his inner circle knew things were spiraling. Friends tried to warn him. Family begged him to slow down. But Charlie's response was always the same. He was invincible. He believed that his fame, his money, and his winning persona made him untouchable. That belief blinded him to just how quickly millions can vanish when addiction is in control. Alongside the drug use came massive legal expenses. Every outburst, incident, or lawsuit carried a price tag, whether it was domestic disputes, damaged property, altercations, or disputes with producers. His bank account was constantly under attack. At one point, Charlie spent nearly $1 million in a single month just to keep mounting legal issues under control. He was fighting battles on all fronts: personal, professional, and financial, and losing all of them. The breakdown of his marriage added another layer of financial strain. Costly divorce settlements, child support payments, and alimony drained his finances even faster. What could have been manageable for a man earning millions became overwhelming. Once his income couldn't keep up with his spending. As his behavior grew more erratic, roles dried up. Producers didn't want to take risks. Studios feared the headlines he attracted. The same industry that once fought to cast him began stepping back, unwilling to gamble on someone who had become unpredictable. The breaking point came when Charlie's behavior on the set of 2.5 Men reached a level the showrunners could no longer tolerate. The outbursts, the missed rehearsals, the inability to stay sober on set, everything collided into a professional disaster. When CBS and Warner Brothers made the decision to fire him from the show, Charlie didn't just lose a job. He lost his biggest source of financial security. That salary over $1 million per episode was the only thing keeping his lifestyle afloat. Without that steady income, the 5-year whirlwind of spending finally caught up to him. The bank accounts that once seemed limitless were now depleted. Bills piled up. The extravagant lifestyle he had built crumbled almost overnight, and the people who had flocked to him during his years of reckless spending began to disappear. Just as quickly. By the end of those 5 years, Charlie Sheen had gone from one of the richest actors in Hollywood to a man struggling to maintain the remnants of a life built on fame, fortune, and unchecked addiction. The fall wasn't gradual, it was an avalanche. When Charlie Sheen lost his role on 2.5 Men, Hollywood expected him to retreat quietly, regroup, and try to repair the damage. But Charlie didn't step back, he exploded. What followed became one of the most chaotic, unforgettable, and heartbreaking public meltdowns in entertainment history. It wasn't just a fall from grace. It was a spectacle that played out on live television, social media, and front-page headlines around the world. Instead of slowing down, Charlie went into overdrive. He seemed determined to prove to everyone that he was still in control. Even as his life spiraled beyond his grasp, he appeared on talk shows, radio programs, and live streams, delivering wild rants that left both audiences and journalists stunned. His behavior was erratic, unpredictable, and at times frightening. The infamous interviews from this period became instant internet sensations. His vocabulary, filled with bizarre catchphrases like tiger blood, winning, and warlock mode, turned him into a meme long before memes dominated social media. Millions watched as Charlie insisted he was perfectly fine, better than fine. In fact, while displaying every sign of a man rapidly unraveling. Instead of sympathy, much of the world reacted with mockery. His pain became entertainment, and the internet cheered as he deteriorated on camera. Behind the scenes, those closest to him were terrified. Friends reported that he wasn't sleeping, wasn't eating, and was consuming drugs at a level that seemed impossible to survive. His home was filled with people who encouraged the chaos, enjoying the fame by association that came with being part of Charlie's freefall. Every day seemed to bring a new scandal, a new headline, or a new meltdown that widened the cracks already shattering his life. Financially, Charlie's situation deteriorated even faster. With his income gone and his spending unchanged, debts began to mount. He sold homes, cars, and memorabilia to stay afloat. Lawsuits piled up, former partners demanded payments, and his monthly expenses reached levels that would bankrupt almost anyone. Hollywood doors that were once wide open slammed shut. Studios didn't want to risk their investments. Insurance companies refused to back him. Even directors who admired him admitted they couldn't handle the unpredictability. The pressure finally pushed Charlie into one of the darkest chapters of his life, the public revelation of his health challenge. When he disclosed his condition in an interview years later, the world was stunned. What hit fans even harder, though, was the confession that he had paid millions in hush money to keep his diagnosis secret. His vulnerability in that moment made many realize the truth. The man they had been laughing at was fighting battles far heavier than anyone knew. This revelation marked a turning point. It exposed the depth of his struggles, the toll years of addiction had taken, and the emotional weight he had been carrying alone. Suddenly, the memes and jokes didn't seem funny anymore. People began to see Charlie not as a spectacle, but as a human being who had been drowning in fame, addiction, and pain for far too long. But his greatest battles still weren't over. As the shock faded and the headlines shifted, Charlie was forced to look at what remained of his life: his finances, his health, and his broken relationships. The Hollywood star who once had everything was now a man, trying desperately to hold on to whatever pieces he could salvage. The meltdown had taken nearly everything from him, and the world waited to see whether he could rebuild or whether the tragedy would deepen further. Today, Charlie Sheen lives a life that is almost unrecognizable from the wild, chaotic, and money-fueled existence he once embraced. After years of headlines, scandals, addictions, and financial disasters, the man who once stood at the top of Hollywood now finds himself in a quieter, lonelier chapter, one shaped by reflection, consequences, and the struggle to rebuild what's left of his world. His story didn't end with the frenzy of his public meltdown. Instead, It settled into a sobering aftermath that shows just how deeply fame and addiction can scar a person's life. Charlie now stays mostly out of the spotlight. Gone are the days of paparazzi swarming his driveway or news stations chasing his latest outburst. He lives modestly compared to his past, having sold off properties, luxury vehicles, and countless pieces of memorabilia that once symbolized his wealth and status. What remains is a simpler home, a smaller circle of people, and a routine that revolves more around survival than spectacle. He no longer hosts wild parties. He no longer burns through money at impossible speeds. For the first time in decades, Charlie's life moves slowly. The financial damage from his 5-year spiral was massive, so massive that even now, he continues to navigate debts, legal obligations, and the long-term consequences of reckless spending. Monthly responsibilities such as child support and settlements remain heavy, and without the millions he once earned, he has had to adjust to a reality he never imagined. Despite his desire to work again, Hollywood has not fully welcomed him back. Many studios still see him as a liability, and the risk of insuring him for major roles is often too high. Smaller projects have come his way, but none that reflect the superstar status he once held. But perhaps the most tragic part of Charlie's life today isn't the loss of money or fame. It's the emotional aftermath. Years of addiction took a toll on his health, leaving him with ongoing medical needs and limitations that constantly remind him of the choices he made. The energy, charisma, and confidence that once defined him are now shadows of their former selves. He struggles with physical exhaustion, mental strain, and the weight of knowing that many of the wounds he carries are self-inflicted. His relationships tell their own story of heartbreak. The connections he once had with friends, partners, and even family were damaged deeply during his darkest years. Trust was broken, bridges were burned, and while some people have forgiven him, others have stepped out of his life permanently. Charlie has spoken in rare interviews about the guilt he feels, the apologies he wishes he could make, and the relationships he hopes to repair before it's too late. Yet, despite everything, there's a small glimmer of resilience. In recent years, Charlie has taken steps to prioritize his health, entering programs, seeking treatment, and attempting to maintain sobriety. He has tried to rebuild a relationship with his children, expressing a desire to be present in their lives in a way he never was during his spiral. He admits that the road has been long and difficult, but he also acknowledges that he is grateful to still be alive, a fate many feared he wouldn't reach. Charlie Sheen's life now is a stark contrast to his years of uncontrollable excess. It is quieter, lonelier, and built on hard lessons learned far too late. But it is also a life seeking peace. After losing millions, fame, friends, and nearly his life, he stands as a powerful reminder of what unchecked addiction can destroy. Even in the hands of someone who once seemed untouchable, his story is tragic, yes, but it's also unfinished. The world may have stopped watching, but the battle for stability, forgiveness, and meaning continues behind closed doors. And for Charlie Sheen, that battle is now the most important one of all.